Hello, MCU fans. Today we're going to look at the question, when does Thor Love and Thunder fit in the MCU timeline? I apologize for my voice being a little messed up, but I wanted to get this out right away because I just got done watching Thor Love and Thunder. Great movie. I promise you'll love it. And there will be no spoilers in this video, but I thought some people may want to watch it before they see the movie. It'll give them a little context into the timeline going in, and there may be people that want to watch it after the movie to figure out, when did this all fit together. So again, no spoilers. Only we'll discuss things that were revealed in the trailers, which have been discussed for weeks, if not months. So let's dive right into the question, when does Thor Love and Thunder fit in the MCU timeline? It's important to start by laying out Thor's timeline because, believe it or not, the information that's been given really fits it in with this overall timeline, but you kind of got to have it in front of you to be able to interpret it. So you can see all the different dates and times when Thor came out, Avengers, then The Dark World, Age of Ultron, Ragnarok, Infinity War, Endgame, and then, of course, Thor Love and Thunder, which we will try to place in the timeline. So let's look at some of the things we've learned, again, from the trailers, which then are all included in the movie, obviously. So first of all, Jane mentions that Thor and Jane broke up 3 to 4 years ago. And Thor humorously says, no, it was 8 years, 7 months, and 6 days. But the joke aside there's something really clear that is laid out by this difference between the amount of time they gave. Jane was very likely blipped. Now, the movie does not confirm that, but if you notice, there's about 5 years difference there. And it's kind of interesting. It shows, how life is like for those that were blipped. For her, it's only been 3 or 4 years. It just rolls right off her tongue because she doesn't think about that time when she was obviously not thinking those 5 years. Thor, on the other hand, though, let's look at his comment because that's very helpful. We know that Thor and Jane were together during Age of Ultron because Thor brags about their relationship. And we know they were not together in Thor Ragnarok because he mentions that, or someone actually walks up and says, sorry about Jane dumping you. And of course, he humorously says, no, I dumped her. It was a mutual dumping, et cetera, et cetera. But so we know it was during that time frame, somewhere in there, that they broke up. So if we advance 8 years and 7 months and 6 days from either Age of Ultron or Thor Ragnarok, that would put Love and Thunder occurring either the earliest being December of 2023 and the latest being June of 2026. Now, one thing that is mentioned in the movie, but it's not a spoiler, is that Jane mentions she first uses Mjolnir 6 months ago, so 6 months prior to Thor Love and Thunder. You'll have to see the movie to understand, how she was able to use it and all of that. That's obviously really interesting stuff from the movie. But she does mention 6 months ago. So from Jane's standpoint, the movie must occur after she, returned from Endgame. So would have to be after April of 2024. So that helps us out a bit more. And then there actually was an interesting Spider-Man No Way Home Easter egg in one of the news tickers. In case you don't recall it, I'll put it here on the screen. This was at the beginning of No Way Home and was basically right after Spider-Man's identity was revealed. And notice it says political turmoil continues in New Asgard. Now, this ticker would have come across around July of 2024 because that's when the beginning of No Way Home occurs. So we know it's going to be therefore after July of 2024. Now, why do I say that? Well, the news ticker wouldn't be talking about political turmoil. It would be talking about the battle that we clearly see in the trailers where Thor and Jane are fighting off. I won't go into any more than that. They're in a fight against evil things. So again, we kind of can move it and slide it later to past July of 2024. But that still gives us quite a range, July of 2024 to June of 2026. Well, if we use some logic and we look at the fact that Jane was understandably upset when Thor returned to her in the Dark World at the first time they'd seen each other since the first Thor movie, over 2 years. She was very upset. I mean, he basically disappeared. But he said that wouldn't happen again. And it's presumed that he spent a lot of time on Earth because he was helping, clean up Hydra, as we learned at the beginning of Age of Ultron. So they probably spent a lot of time together from November of 2013 to May of 2015. Then at the end of Age of Ultron, if you recall, he took off again, and in this case to go search for the Infinity Stones because he'd had the visions and wanted to find out, what was going on. So presumably he was gone again for quite a while, because in Thor Ragnarok, it's mentioned that, the dumping, the breakup, as though it was fairly recent. And that would make sense, because in Thor Ragnarok, he also said he couldn't find any of the stones, but then he mentions having dreams, Asgard on fire, and that's why he goes to track down Surtur. So if he did spend, let's say, a year, 2 years, maybe even, searching for the stones, and then came back to find out, that Jane had dumped him, as they said, then probably it was during the closer to Thor Ragnarok. So if that's the case, then that means that probably the movie is more around fall of 2025 to spring of 2026, because it's going to be at the later end of that long gap. And that does make a lot of sense for several things, because also he had to lose all the weight from the end of Endgame, and that probably took a while, and he was with the Guardians presumably for a while. So probably fall of 2025 to spring of 2026. Honestly, that's about the closest we can get until Disney Plus places it on their timeline. But I'm going to go out on a limb, and I'm going to go with April of 2026, because it's been implied that this is the latest movie so far in the timeline by Takeda, the director. Sorry, I butchered that. And also I think some other interviews have implied that. So I'm going to go with April of 2026, but it could be anywhere from late 2025 to April of 2026. So I hope this helps. It's kind of interesting. Thor has had quite an adventure in the MCU, and certainly it's implied we're going to get at least one more movie, because I tell you, there's a lot of good stuff that happens in this movie, and you're going to want to see a Thor 5 for sure. So I hope this helps. Please like and subscribe. And if you want to watch more videos, I have several out there. And in the meantime, continue to enjoy the ever-expanding, ever-growing Marvel Cinematic Universe.